Another day is here, and you're ready for it. What to wear? Check. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner? Check. Planning for what's next and how to save for it? That's where Bank of America can help. For your financial to-dos, Bank of America has experts ready to help get you closer to your goals. Get started at one of our local financial centers or 24/7 in our mobile banking app. Find a location near you at bankofamerica.com/talktous. What would you like the power to do? Mobile banking requires downloading the app and is only available for select devices. Message and data rates may apply. Bank of America N.A., member FDIC.
Now's the time to save 30% on wedding jewelry, only on BlueNile.com. Make sure your wedding ring is the one with your pick of diamond and lab-grown diamond bands, all hand-finished and graded for excellence. Or surprise her with something blue she'll love for life, like a stunning pair of sapphire earrings. Blue Nile's jewelry experts are available 24/7 to help, from fit questions to style advice. Right now, get up to 30% off at BlueNile.com. BlueNile.com.
When you need mealtime inspiration, it's worth shopping Kroger, where you'll find over 30,000 mouth-watering choices that excite your inner foodie. And no matter what tasty choice you make, you'll enjoy our everyday low prices, plus extra ways to save, like digital coupons worth over $600 each week. You can also save up to $1 off per gallon at the pump with fuel points. More savings and more inspiring flavors make shopping Kroger worth it every time. Kroger, fresh for everyone. Fuel restrictions apply.
The Two-Footed Podcast is brought to you by EPLindex.com and our presenting sponsor, Liberty Shield. Liberty Shield is a VPN provider. A virtual privacy network allows you to go online, change your location, access things you're geo-blocked from, while keeping your data safe. So, as an example, if you are a UK expat and want access to BBC iPlayer to watch Match of the Day, or ITV Hub, or all four, but you get that message that says this content is not available in your location, a Liberty Shield VPN gets you around that block, allows you to watch whatever you want on those services, while also keeping your data safe. And it goes further than that. It allows you to open up Netflix's entire library by just changing your IP address. Liberty Shield is the #1 rated VPN provider on Trustpilot with 5-star ratings across the board. So go to libertyshield.com right now, use the code EPL25 and get either the hardware package or the software package. The hardware package is a router that you plug into your existing router, and any item you want to change the IP address on, be it your phone or your television, you connect that to the new Liberty Shield router. All other items can remain connected to your existing router. There's also a software package, which is instantly downloadable to your device, and you can get using straight away. Again, libertyshield.com, EPL25 for 25% off at checkout. We're also brought to you by Home of Hopcroft, a giftware and homeware company located in Scotland but shipping worldwide. Check out homeofhopcroft.co.uk and do check out the EPL Index and Anfield Index shops, which you'll find on Etsy. Use the codes EPL10 or RED10 for 10% off at checkout. And lastly, do remember to check out A Tad Predictable, hosted by Tadiwa. That podcast is on this feed before every Premier League match week. And then the EPL Roundtable, hosted by Kevin DeVries, on its own EPL Roundtable feed. So just search EPL Roundtable in your podcast device. And that's out after every match week. Now, on with the show. Let's go, boys and girls. Two-Footed Podcast. Today is Thursday. It is the 20th of June. Hope you're all well and having yourselves a very pleasant day. We're going to start with the Euros, largely because we have, I think, the first real controversy. So, yesterday, we had Croatia versus Albania. The game played out in very exciting fashion and ended 2-2. But the controversy comes because it appears that after the game, both sets of fans began chanting about the Serbians. And now, Serbia are threatening to pull out of the competition over these chants. The General Secretary of the Football Association of Serbia has called for the strongest sanction to be taken. He says, what happened is scandalous and we will ask UEFA for sanctions, even if it means not continuing in the competition. Now, Serbia are due to kick off in about 15 minutes. I assume the game is going to go ahead. They've handed in a team sheet, so my assumption is that the game will go ahead. But beyond that, we don't know. We don't know. There has been obviously long-running tensions between the Serbs and the Albanians, and obviously after the breakup of the former Yugoslavia, there has always been tension between the Serbs and the Croats. People like to tell you to keep politics out of football. It's impossible, especially at the international level, when there's just so much ill will between certain groups of people. Hopefully, this gets resolved. If the attempts are not successful to convince the Serbians to stay in the competition, then I don't really know what that means, because they're due to play Slovenia today and then Denmark in their last game. And let's just say they play Slovenia today, and let's just say, for example, it ends in a draw. That would put Slovenia on 2 points, Serbia on 1. And England, if they beat Denmark later today, will be on 6, while the Danes will also be on 1. But then Slovenia have to face England, and you'd fancy England to win, which means Slovenia end on 2 points. And they're left hoping that the England win over Denmark is bigger than the England win over them, and that Denmark don't beat Serbia in the final game. But what if Serbia don't turn up, or Denmark just handed 3 points and a free pass into the last 16? It could get very, very messy. Now, there's already been an issue on Wednesday when the credentials of a journalist from Kosovo were cancelled by UEFA because he made the double-handed eagle gesture towards Serbian fans. And that is a gesture that has stoked the flames in recent years. And Xherdan Shaqiri got in trouble for doing similar. And when Shaqiri was at Liverpool were drawn to play, I assume, Red Star Belgrade. And there was a lot of talk that Shaqiri wouldn't travel because it wouldn't be safe for him, because there was a lot of ill feeling between the Serbs and Shaqiri, who's, I think, of both Albanian and Kosovoan ethnicity. And he had made the gesture, I think, during an international game. I don't think it was Switzerland-Serbia. I think it was a Switzerland game that he made it in. But it is obviously a significant issue that needs to be addressed. And if the chants that have been reported are accurate, then there probably should be some sort of punishment for the Croatians and the Albanians, because whatever you might think, there's just no place for those type of statements. But fingers crossed, it does get resolved. Now, as I said yesterday, we did see Croatia and Albania play out the 2-2 draw. Laki scored early. Kramaric scored in the 76th minute to equalise. Yazula put through his own net on 76 to make it 2-1 to Croatia. And then he realised that he was meant to score at the other end in stoppage time, and he equalised. And the game ended in just really exciting fashion, basically a basketball game, and it was a lot of fun. as I left you yesterday, Germany had actually just scored through Musiala. That was after Willy Urban did really well and then fell over in his own box and gifted the ball to Gundogan, who squared it to Musiala, who scored. The Hungarians, to their credit, played decently well, had some opportunities. Szoboszlai almost scored from a free kick, but they couldn't find the breakthrough, and Ilkay Gundogan wrapped the game up on 67 to give Germany the win and ensure that they are the first team to qualify for the round of 16. And then in the final game, it was Scotland versus Switzerland. I was really disappointed with Switzerland after their performance against Hungary. I expected a lot more from them. The Scots came out well up for the game, and Andy Robertson, who had an absolute nightmare against the Germans, played substantially better in this one and was on it from the off. He drove forward, exchanged passes, got the ball back, laid it off to Callum McGregor, who cut it back for Scott McTominay, arriving late on the edge of the box, and his shot was very tamely going straight into Jan Sommer's hands, and for some reason Fabian Schär stuck his foot out and deflected it into his own net. The lead lasted 13 minutes, and then Scotland decided to do a silly as well. Ball was given away, played in behind the centre-backs from the right-back position. I assume it was Tony Ralston was playing right-back, wasn't it? Yeah, Anthony Ralston. He played, it was either him or Hendry, I can't remember which, but they were in the right-back position. They played it basically across behind the centre-backs who were stepping out, and Xherdan Shaqiri ran onto it. And from the edge of the box, first time curling finish into the top corner that gave Angus Gunn no chance. Scotland had some opportunities to win the game, but so did Switzerland. And Ndoye probably had the biggest chance in the game. He did really well in a 1v1 versus Kieran Tierney for a ball that was played over the top. Shook Tierney off. Tierney got injured in the process, is done for the tournament. And Ndoye really should finish from there, but he skewed his shot wide. Good point for the Scots. I do think the Swiss will be disappointed, but in all likelihood they're through and don't really need to concern themselves with much of anything. Them and Germany can afford to play out a draw in the final game and just ease through. Scotland-Hungary becomes an interesting one for the final game, because if Scotland were to win, 4 points almost certainly gives them a last 16 berth as one of the best third-place teams. But if Hungary win, 3 points might not be enough. So they could win that and still go out. So that should be an interesting game. They will take place, both of those games, on Sunday, the 23rd. That's Sunday coming. Both of them are 8 p.m. kickoffs. Today, like I say, we do have Slovenia versus Serbia, and the teams have been handed in. For Slovenia, it's Jan Oblak in goal. We've got Karasnik on the right back, Drukis, Drukasic in centre back with Bijol, Janza at left back, Stojanovic on the right wing, Mlakar on the left wing, Seren and Elsnik in the middle, and then up front you've got Sporer and Sesko. Look, they surprised me against the Danes. I still think Denmark should have won the game, but I was surprised by how well organised they were and how relentless they were. For the Serbs, you've got Rajkovic in goal, Veljkovic, Milinkovic, and Pavlovic as the back three. That's strong. Zivkovic, Ilic, Lukic, and Mladenovic across the middle. Dusan Tadic in the 10, and then Dusan Vlahovic and Alexander Mitrovic up front. Notable that Sergei Milinkovic-Savic has been left out. Now, he did cover a lot of ground in the England game, and maybe this is a rest thing, but he's their best player. I'm surprised he's not starting. Should be a decent enough game, and I hope it is a good game. At 5 p.m, we have Denmark versus England. Obviously, England bored everybody to tears in their 1-0 win over Serbia, whereas Denmark drew 1-1 with Slovenia in their first game. You would have to make England heavy favourites to win the game. It's expected that Gareth said it will name the same team that played Serbia, so not making the changes that pretty much everybody else thinks are necessary. And then our final game today is the really exciting one of the day. It is Spain versus Italy. Spain looked great against Croatia. Italy, in spells, looked really good against Albania. I want Italy to win, and I think they will win, but so much of it comes down to Rodri. If he's on form, Spain are quite formidable. Now, there are reports that the Spanish are quite concerned about his fitness levels and fatigue. He's had a long season. He played a lot of games, and obviously we saw what happened when City didn't have him, and the results for Spain are likely to be even worse because individually those players are not as good as the City players. Now, they're not playing teams of the caliber of those at the top of the Premier League, though the Italians are in their own right a very good team. I think this is going to be a good game. I really do. So that is today in the European Championships. And then, if you're up to it, at 1 a.m. UK time, which is 8 p.m. East Coast time in the United States, 5 p.m. West Coast time, it is Argentina versus Canada in what should be a really good opening match for the Copa America 2024. Now, obviously, Argentina are aiming to do something historic here. As we all know, only one team has won their Continental Trophy, then the World Cup, and then the Continental Trophy again, and that is the Spanish team circa 2008 to 2012. Well, in 2021, Argentina won the Copa America in Brazil, their 15th time winning that competition. And then they went to the World Cup in 2022 and won it as well. And now they have the opportunity to win a third international tournament in a row and join that Spanish team. Now, I don't think any of us would suggest that this Argentina team are as good as that Spanish team, but they are a very good team. They're well managed, and obviously they have a top 2 player of all time in Lionel Messi. The greatest player of all time in Lionel Messi. Not the best, in my opinion. That's still Maradona, but the greatest player of all time who's had the greatest career imaginable. And it's interesting that this tournament is obviously being played in the United States of America, and there are the 6 CONCACAF teams: Jamaica, Mexico, Panama, USA, Canada, and Costa Rica, joining the South American teams and expanding this competition. And for me, this is what they should do moving forward. It should be an amalgamation of both North and South America. I'd even like to see a bit more Central America brought into the mix, because I do think there's maybe 1 or 2 more countries that... So you could maybe make the South American nations qualify, because they all qualified automatically, and then the CONCACAF teams had to actually qualify for the tournament. So maybe as a way to make that a little bit more even, where you get 8 and 8, but it's a really strong field. And as with the Euros, I mean, Germany does stadiums better than anybody else in Europe, but nobody does stadiums as well as the Americans. And there are some absolutely belting stadiums here. The AT&T Stadium in Dallas is a masterpiece. The Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta, where tonight's game will take place, is incredible. Now, the Q2 Stadium in Austin is a smaller stadium, capacity of only about 21,000. The Bank of America Stadium in Charlotte is impressive, but it is also older, and I'm a little bit surprised that they're using it. MetLife in New Jersey, it's the home of the New York Jets and New York Giants. It's very, very impressive as well. The Energy Stadium in Houston, it's been around now a good while, probably 20 years since the Texans were formed, but it's still a great stadium. You've got the State Farm Stadium in Glendale, which is the Phoenix region, which has hosted multiple Super Bowls, and it's very highly thought of. The Levi Stadium in Santa Clara, home of the San Francisco 49ers, it looks great. SoFi Stadium in LA is maybe the best stadium on the planet. The Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas, home of the Raiders, is also a triumph. Arrowhead is an old stadium, but it's one that's been well maintained and upgraded, and it's noted for its atmosphere. There's also Children's Mercy Park, which is in Kansas City, Kansas, while Arrowhead is in Kansas City, Missouri, but it's a smaller stadium as well. It's a football-specific stadium that was built for an MLS team. You've got the Hard Rock Stadium in Miami, which has been, I think it's had about 6 or 7 different names. It's been upgraded and renovated a dozen times. And actually, to be fair, now it looks very, very good. And then you've got the Inter-Co Stadium in Orlando, Florida, which again is a football-specific stadium, 25,000. So they've gone with a lot of the big hitting stadiums, a lot of the big guns, and then 3 smaller football-specific stadiums too. Probably for certain games that just aren't going to draw crowds, but like there are some absolute triumphs here. The AT&T, Mercedes-Benz Stadium, SoFi, Allegiant Stadium, like they're all incredible, and they're all pretty new. I mean, Levi Stadium is open 2014, so it's 10 years now, to be fair. AT&T must be about the same, Jerry World. Let's see, 2009, so 15 years. That's crazy. The Mercedes-Benz Stadium is incredible. It has the best roof I've ever seen in a stadium. Go and look it up if you haven't seen it. It's absolutely amazing the way it works. So it can be an open roof stadium, or it can be the closed roof. It's now almost 7 years old. SoFi is new enough. It's probably 4 years. Yeah, 4 years this year. And then I think the Allegiant Stadium of the big ones is the newest. Also 2020. Yeah, and MetLife, like I say, not that old either from when the Jets and Giants moved out of Giant Stadium. It's 14 years old now, but it's hosted some major events as well. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to this. So if you're not aware, just to recap what's taking place, in the group stage, Group A is Argentina, Peru, Chile, and Canada. Group B is Mexico, Ecuador, Venezuela, and Jamaica. Group C is the United States, Uruguay, Panama, and Bolivia. And Group D is Brazil, Colombia, Paraguay, and Costa Rica. The group stage runs from tonight up until July the 2nd, US time, which will be the morning of July 3rd, our time. Then the quarterfinals will be the 4th, 5th, and 6th. The semifinals, the 9th and 10th. The 3rd and 4th place playoff will be the 13th. And the final will be on the 14th. Now, I'm a little bit surprised by the stadiums they've chosen for the knockout games. Houston expected, Dallas expected, Vegas expected, and Phoenix, Glendale. That's fine. So the quarterfinals are all good. The semifinals, East Rutherford, absolutely no issue. MetLife Stadium, no problem there, as long as they fix the turf. I'm just really surprised they've picked the Bank of America Stadium in Charlotte. Now, I know it has been renovated in recent years, and maybe it looks a lot better now. I haven't watched a Carolina Panthers game in a couple of years because they've just been absolutely woeful. But I do seem to remember it looked quite dated. But we'll see. We'll see. And then the final is to be played at the Hard Rock Stadium in Miami. The third and fourth place game will also be at the Bank of America Stadium. I thought SoFi would have gotten a semi-final or ideally the final, but no, it's to be played at the Hard Rock, which again, like it's an older stadium. It has been renovated multiple times and modernized and all the rest. How many different names has it had? Joe Robbie Stadium, the Pro Player Park, Pro Player Stadium, Dolphin Stadium, Landshark Stadium, Sun Life Stadium, and now the Hard Rock Cafe Stadium, or Hard Rock Stadium. It's hosted 6 Super Bowls. Maybe they decided that, you know, they wanted Messi to be able to sleep in his own bed the night before because he lives in Miami now, so it's just easier to have it in his home city. Maybe, I don't know. But I'm really looking forward to this competition. I think it's going to be great. I love the format. I love the 16 teams. I said before, that's the ideal number for a continental international tournament, and then 24 for the World Cup should be the number. But yeah, get to see the best of the best. That'll be fun. The Euros are fun. The Slovenia-Serbia game is now underway, and I will be back after this commercial break. Right, welcome back. So, on our journey through the Premier League, last season's teams, this season's teams, we land on newly promoted Leicester City, returning to the Premier League after a one-season absence. Obviously relegated at the end of 22-23. A disaster class by Brendan Rodgers. Dean Smith, absolutely no use to anybody in the 2-month spell he was in charge. Enzo Maresca took over last summer. Maresca had obviously been at Manchester City for a year, working under Pep. He'd been at City prior to that, working in their academy, and then taken the Parma job. It didn't go very well at all. He was sacked after 14 games and only 4 wins. Went back to City, worked as Pep's assistant, and then after a year of doing that, he was given the Leicester job. And it was seen as a pretty big gamble by Leicester City. Now, in the summer, they had a lot of business to do because they had a number of players who were either out of contract or coming up with a year left, so they had to move a lot of people on. So Maddison left, Daniel Amartey left, Ryan Bertrand left, Josh Epia left, Johnny Evans left, Nampali Mendy left, Ayoze Perez left, that was a free. Kagler Sionchu left, that was a free. As, by the way, were Amartey and Ryan Bertrand, who I believe hasn't signed for anybody. He's actually, I think he's retired now, isn't he? Ryan Bertrand, let's see. Yeah, he did. He retired this summer, having not found a club last year. Evans was out of contract. Mendy was out of contract. Yuri Tielemans was also out of contract. Harvey Barnes was sold. Timothy Castagne was sold. I mean, that just goes to show how poorly they were managing their squad. The fact that they had so many players out of contract and were unable to get fees for that many players that would have had value. I mean, they spent quite a bit on Yuri Tielemans. They spend quite a bit on Söyüncü, on Perez, on Mendy, and they get nothing back to them. They got a good fee for Maddison, a good fee for Barnes, and a decent fee for Castagnier. They loaned in Callum Doyle from Manchester City. They loaned in Cesare Caicedo from Chelsea. He was recalled in January. They loaned in Abdul Fatua, who I think they're trying to make permanent. And Yunus Agkon also loaned in, and I'll be interested to see if they try to keep him, because he was quite important to them in the second half of the season. They loaned out Lewis Brunt, Victor Christensen, Luke Thomas. Didn't really understand the decision to loan both left-backs out, but it is what they did. They loaned out Boubakary Samare, Daniel Iverson, and then Luke Thomas, after the Sheffield United loan was a disaster, he was recalled and reloaned out to Middlesbrough. Now, coming in the door, they brought in Harry Winks. They brought in Connor Cody, looking for some leadership and a veteran presence at the back. They brought in Mats Hermansson from Brøndby, Steffi Mavididi from Montpellier, Arjan Raki from Aston Villa, who's a young player brought in for the academy. And then on deadline day, they signed Tom Cannon from Everton. In the FA Cup, they actually reached the quarterfinals, had a decent run. They beat Millwall 3-2 away, beat Birmingham 3-0 at home, so favourable draws getting teams in the Championship. But then they went to Bournemouth and beat them 1-0 after extra time. They lost 4-2 to Chelsea in the quarterfinals. They had gone 2 down, got it back to 2-2, looked set to bring it back to the King Power for a replay, or maybe it would have gone to extra time. I think it was a replay. No, it wasn't. No, it would have been extra time and penalties. It would have been extra time and penalties, because the Liverpool game went to extra time and would have been penalties. But it looked like it was going to go to extra time either way. Callum Doyle had been sent off, but they were holding out, but then they conceded 2 goals in stoppage time. In the EFL Cup, they beat Burton Albion 2-0 away. They beat Tranmere 2-0 away. And then they lost 3-1 at Anfield to Liverpool, who obviously went on and won the competition. Now, in the league, they had a great start to the season. So they win their first 4. They beat Coventry home. That's a really good win. Playoff finalists the year before. They beat Huddersfield away, Cardiff home, and Rotherham away. All straightforward games they should win. They did then lose at home to Hull, but after that, they rattled off 9 wins in a row. They beat Southampton 4-1 away, Norwich 2-0 away, Bristol at home, Blackburn away, Preston at home, Stoke at home, Swansea away, Sunderland at home, and QPR away from home. And they are top after 14 games. And they would remain top, even though they did pick up a couple of surprising defeats along the way. They lost at home to Leeds. That's not an issue. They lost away to Middlesbrough. Middlesbrough have been, a decent team the year before, but we're not having a good season. So that was seen as a bit of an upset. But then they beat Watford. Then they drew with Sheffield Wednesday, which was a poor result. But they, again, bounced back to winning 5 in a row. They beat West Brom away, beat Plymouth at home, beat Millwall at home, beat Birmingham away, and beat Rotherham at home. Then they draw away to Ipswich, which is a good result. Beat Cardiff away and beat Huddersfield at home. Then they lost to Coventry 3-1. Now, for a long time, it felt like they were actually going to win that game. They were 1 up through Dewsbury Hall. Fatua was sent off just before half-time, but in the second half, they still managed to control quite a bit of the game, but Coventry find 3 late goals and win it. They draw 1-1 at home with Ipswich, then they win 4 in a row. They beat Swansea at home, Stoke away, Watford away, and Sheffield Wednesday at home. So they're still top and looking comfortable. Then they lose 3 in a row. They lose home to Middlesbrough, away to Leeds, which is fair enough, and home to QPR, which was a big surprise. Then they go and beat Sunderland away. They draw away to Hull, but then they lose at Bristol. Then they beat Norwich and Birmingham at home. They lose away to Millwall and Plymouth, two very, very surprising results. And at this point, they're now off the top. They dropped off, they got it back, now they're off the top again. But we've been through Ipswich. You can look at Leeds' results. Neither of them wanted to get automatically promoted or win the league. And Leicester were able to bounce back. They beat West Brom, they hammered Southampton, and then they went to Preston and won and clinched league title and automatic promotion. So when they lose 2-0 at home to Blackburn on the final day, it doesn't matter at all. In terms of who played the games, Mads Hermansen plays 44 of the league games, and Stolarczyk, the young Polish goalkeeper, actually, is he young? I think he is. Isn't he like 23? Yeah, 23. He plays the other two. In defence, James Justin plays 39. Great to see him back playing after such horrible injuries. Woodface plays 42. Callum Doyle only plays 16, which is a bit of a shock. Harry Suter, brought in by Brendan Rodgers for significant money, plays 3 games, 1 start. Ricardo Pereira plays 39 games. Yannick Vestergaard plays 40. Ben Nielsen plays 5. And Conor Cody manages only 13, including only 9 starts. In midfield, Winks plays 45 games. Hamza Chowdhury plays 34, 15 starts, but 34 overall. Dewsbury Hall plays 44. He was the best player in the league last season. Ndidi plays 32. Dennis Pryor plays 17. Casey McAteer plays 23. Now, a lot of these are sub-appearances, but I'm just going with totals. Abdul Fatua plays 40, 33 starts, 7 sub-appearances. And Caicedo plays 22. Only 8 starts, but 14 sub-appearances. He was important to them. And yet, Chelsea still pulled him back off the loan, which was a little bit strange. Mark Albrighton made 12 sub-appearances. In attack, then, Vardy makes 18 starts, scores 18 goals. Now, he did play 35 games in total, but only 18 starts. Mavididi plays all 46, 42 of them as starts. Iheanacho starts 10, plays 23 in total. Dacus starts 15, plays 20 in total. Tom Cannon, who they signed for decent enough money, only 3 starts, 13 appearances. Aggun, when he came in, 9 starts, but 23 games in total. So they played a lot of 4-2-3-1. They played some 4-3-3. Even their 4-2-3-1, though, is more of a 4-3-3 because the 10 is a central midfielder who drops back in out of possession. So largely last season, that was Dewsbury Hall in front of Winks and Ndidi when fit. Then in the wide positions, you generally had Fatua one side, Mavididi the other, and then whichever striker they were going to use. Vardy probably still, he did play the most and he did start the most games, so he's still the first choice. Then in defence, I mean, Pereira's playing one side, Justin the other, Faze and Vestergaard at centre-back. I mean, it's not a defence that would fill you with confidence, and yet they still did pretty well. They only conceded 41 goals all season, which I'm pretty certain it was the best defensive record in the league. Leeds were 43, West Brom 47. So yeah, they had the best defensive record in the league. They scored the second most goals in the league. Again, despite an attack where there wasn't a goal scorer that was playing every single week. Like Vardy, only 18 starts, but he gets 18 league goals. Mavididi gets 12, Dewsbury Hall gets 12. But then you see the blend. Patson Daka gets 7, Fatua gets 6, McAteer gets 6, Iheanacho 5, Ndidi 3, Pereira 3, Ndidi 4, Pereira 3, Paisaidai, Cannon, Justin, Faze, Winks, and Vestergaard all get 2 each. Pryor, Agkun, and Marsal all get 1, as does Ben Nelson. And they also had an own goal scored on their behalf. In terms of creativity, again, that's spread out. So just in the league, Dewsbury Hall, 14 assists, Abdul Fatua, 13, Mavididi 6, Ndidi 5. Wilfred Ndidi with 5 assists is the hell of a thing. Daka 5, Justin 3, Pereira 3, Agkun 2, Iheanacho 1, Vardy had 2, Callum Doyle, Tom Callan, Hamza Chedri, and Dennis Pryor all had 1 each. Mads Hermansen, despite the best defensive record in the league, actually kept 13 clean sheets in his 44 games. Stolisic kept 2 clean sheets in his 2 games. They kept 15 in total. And then they were also quite disciplined, which is important. Only 1 red card all season. And that was the Fatua one against Coventry. And that was a straight red. They didn't get anybody who picked up 2 yellow cards in a game. They had 1 other red card on the season. It was in the FA Cup. That was Callum Doyle against Chelsea. Harry Winks got 9 yellow cards. Yannick Vestergaard got 13. Ricardo Pereira had 8. Dewsbury Hall, Fatua, and Faze all had 6. Mavididi had 7. Chowdhury had 5. Let's see if we can reorder this. Ndidi had 5. Justin Vardy 4 each. Hermansen, McAteer, and Nelson 2 each. Cody, Doyle, Paisaidai, Iheanacho, Daka, Cannon, and Agkun all got 1 each. So only 85 bookings in the league, which is the sign of a very disciplined team. It's less than 2 a game. That's really, really good. And it's part of why they were successful. They didn't have to deal with too many suspensions. You know, they were able to keep a lot of the same players involved week on week. I think credit must go to Maresca. I think he did a really good job. I really do. I mean, the end of the season, things got a little bit ropey. But if you look at through 32 games, 25 wins, 3 draws, 4 defeats. That's really, really good through 32 games. The end of it's a little bit messy. They lose 7 games in the last 14 of the year and draw 1. So they only won 6 of their last 14. Otherwise, I mean, they were going to obliterate the points record for the championship team. Absolutely obliterate it. But look, they got the job done. They came up. That's all that matters to them. Now, we obviously know that big things have happened since the season ended, including Enzo Maresca leaving to become manager of Chelsea. And today, Leicester have confirmed that Steve Cooper will be their new manager. He has signed a 3-year contract. He says he's really excited and proud to be appointed Leicester City's manager. This is a fantastic club with a rich history and passionate fans. I'm excited to work with such a talented squad, and I'm looking forward to the challenge of achieving our shared ambitions in the Premier League. I thought Graham Potter was the one that made the most sense, but I do like Steve Cooper. I thought Nottingham Forest were wrong to get rid of him. I thought he did great work there, getting them up and keeping them up and dealing with the madness that goes on there in terms of how they operate with recruitment. I think at Leicester, he'll be at a club that's more stable, with more of a clinical approach to the recruitment. They are going to have to recruit, though, like they just are. I think they need 2 centre-backs. Vestergaard's not good. He just isn't, and neither's Wood Faze. So for me, you need 2 starting centre-backs. Now, if Justin can stay fit, I'd be more than happy with Ricardo Pereira and James Justin as my starting fullbacks. But you do need some cover for them, because at the moment you don't really have any other than Hamza Chowdhury and Mark Albrighton. So you've got to get good cover in there, but you've got to get 2 starting centre-backs. And you've got to look to move certain players on, people like Harry Suter, who just aren't good enough. The goalkeeping situation, I think they're in pretty good shape. I think Hermansen looks really promising. Stolicic is young. And Danny Ward is still only 30, and he's a homegrown player, so that's fine to have as your third choice. In midfield, a lot depends on whether or not you can keep hold of Kieran Dewsbury-Hall. Now, they've got Ndidi, Pryor, and Albrighton all in a contract this summer. I think Ndidi they've got to try and re-sign. Albrighton, they'll probably give a 1-year contract to. Pryor, you'd be happy enough to move on. McAteer's a really good player. I expect to see a lot of him next season. I like Chowdhury a bit more than other people do, because I just like the fact that he's a little bit gnarly and is happy to, kick people up in the air. Winks is a solid player, and he'll be important as well. But I do think a defensive midfielder to supplement Ndidi is a necessity in that group. And then an attack, I think if you can keep Fatua and you've got him and Mabadidi on the wings, that's really good. I think that Iheanacho's going to go. He's out of contract. Vardy is re-signing for another year. You've still got Patson Daka. You've still got Tom Cannon. I'd be inclined to loan Tom Cannon out to get him game time. And I think I would look to buy a number 9. Now, I should point out they've got Victor Christensen they can bring back. So they could, in theory, I wonder would he play a back 3? He's a very different manager to Maresca. I wonder will he play a back 3? Because if he does, Christensen and Luke Thomas as options at left back and at left side centre back in Thomas's case, it's pretty good to have. I wonder will he play a back 3? That's going to be interesting to see. But either way, you're still going to need 2, maybe 3 centre backs. With those 2 coming back, I think your full back situation's actually okay. Daniel Everson, I'd look to sell. Boubacar Samari, they still own. So he could be the one that comes back in and supplements the midfield. And maybe you don't need to do that. But I think you've got to get a number 9. And then have Vardy as the depth, as the an option off the bench. And Daka as your third choice there. I'm curious as to how he'd play it. Because then he might play Dewsbury Hall and only one of Mavadidi and Fatua behind the striker if he buys that 9. And then Fatua's the cover for both, which is pretty good. You still need one in midfield. Actually, maybe not. Maybe you'd be okay. Anyway, centre-backs and a goal scorer. Go and sort them out, Steve Cooper. And I think Leicester will be fine. There's enough Premier League know-how in the squad. The worry for me is that defence, though. Faze isn't good. Vestergaard is dreadful. And Harry Suter's even worse. You have to love Brendan Rodgers. I mean, what a guy. He signs Yannick Vestergaard. God knows why. Spends a big ball of money on him. Realises quite quickly he's no good. And then turns around and buys Harry Suter, who's basically the same player, for another big ball of money. And as soon as Maresca comes in, he realises this guy's not good. So we're not going to play him. Dreadful stuff. Absolutely dreadful. I do like Christensen, though. And if they're not going to use him, I think there'll be a line of clubs that will queue up for him. Decent squad, just need to sort the defence and find that number 9 that can play regularly. Update on Slovenia, Serbia. It is 0-0 after 43 minutes, and we will go to break and be back after this. Right, welcome back. So, Aston Villa have reached agreement with Chelsea to sign Ian Maatsen. I did say I thought left-back was a position they should look to upgrade, and Maatsen is a significant upgrade on both Luca Digne and Moreno, and I assume one of them will be moved on this summer, most likely. Digne, the fee is set to be, I think, 37.5 million, paid in installments, and it looks like it will be a 6-year contract for the player. So that's obviously a great bit of business for Villa, a good bit of business for Chelsea. It helps them with their financial situation, and I really do think this is a good move for all parties, especially the player. What else do we have here? So Jim Radcliffe has done an interview where he's had himself a rather big moan, talking about how, United have been poorly run. There's a lot of accountants, but not a lot of football people. He says there's room for improvement everywhere we look at Man United. We will improve everything. We want to be where Real Madrid is today, but it will take time. It will take 2 or 3 summer windows to get to a better place. He also said the net spend since the departure of Sir Alex Ferguson and David Gill is 1.1 billion. Real Madrid's is 200 million, and today they have 6 or 7 players valued at over 100 million. United have none, and they have the new Bernabeu. And he's obviously made it clear in the past that he feels that United need to significantly upgrade Old Trafford, which I think everybody does agree. Everton have completed the signing of Tim Iroegbunam from Aston Villa for 9 million. I actually really like that deal for Everton. I don't like it for Villa. I think you've just given up a player that should be your backup defensive midfielder for a pretty low fee. And it looks like they're going to try and bring Jack Harrison back on loan there as well. Now, United looked like they were zeroing in on signing Jean-Claude Todibo from Nice, but UEFA are now blocking that move by the looks of things and will not allow it because of Ineos's ownership of Nice and their minority ownership of Manchester United. Paris Saint-Germain are attempting to sign Ryan Cherki. Niko Kovac was offered a job in Dubai, but has turned it down. What else do we have here? It looks like Wout Weghorst will join Ajax. Mentioned that story yesterday. So Marcelo Gallardo, who was at River Plate and did a brilliant job, and then joined Al Ittihad in Saudi, to the surprise of many, and it didn't go well. It looks like he will now leave, and Stefano Pioli, formerly of AC Milan, looks like he's the favourite to take over. Chelsea are attempting to sign Aaron Anselmino from Boca Juniors. Apparently his release clause is £25 million. So that is a lot of the news for the moment. Obviously mentioned earlier on that Steve Cooper has been appointed manager of Leicester. Nottingham Forest are close to signing Eric da Silva Moreira from St. Pauli, 1.5 million, and add-ons. He is an 18-year-old. So yet another kind of lower price move for Forest, who do seem to be approaching this summer with that sort of mindset of doing cheaper deals and trying to bring in players that they can develop. Jim Ratcliffe has confirmed that UEFA have told Nice they can sell Todibo to another Premier League club, but not to Manchester United. Aston Villa, as everybody knows, are in talks to sell Douglas Luiz to Juventus, and the deal had been Samuel Illing Jr. and Weston McKennie plus cash. It now looks like McKennie is off the table and looks like he may well join Spurs. I had said that I think Villa should push for Matthias Sula. I still think they should push for Matthias Sula. I think he is the perfect one to bring in. But this ties in with the decision to sell Irabunum. It now looks like the player who will be in the deal instead could be Enzo Barrenechea, 23-year-old Argentine defensive midfielder, was at Frosinone this past season, and performed very well. But again, I would be pushing for him and Sula and not Illing Jr. if I was making decisions at Villa. Now, the old spoofer with the catchphrase has said that Sula is not currently included in talks, which suggests to me that Villa have maybe asked about him, but would have to probably give up quite a chunk of the cash that's involved in this deal. Real Madrid have sold Rafa Marin to Napoli and Alex Jimenez to AC Milan. Wes Foderingham has signed for West Ham to be their third-choice goalkeeper next season. Crystal Palace have offered a new contract to Michael Olise with a higher salary and a new release clause for next summer. I actually really hope he signs that. I think he should stay there because they're building something that could be very, very good, and it would be tremendous if they got to see it out this season. And hopefully they'll do similar with Guehi and Eze, and they'll be able to keep the group together. Manchester United are interested in Edson Alvarez. Well, signing players that Ten Hag worked with at Ajax has worked out so well for them so far, so they might as well do the same. Josep Martinez is leaving Inter to go, so he's leaving Genoa to go to Inter rather. Gaetano Oristanio, I don't know who that is, will join Genoa as part of the agreement. Right. Looks like plenty of clubs are busy though, so that's good. And the transfer window itself doesn't officially open for 12 more days, but at the moment you can sign players from other English clubs. So there'll probably be a few more deals as we go along. Burnley have spoken to Ruud van Nistelrooy about their managerial opening. We'll see if anything comes of that. He was also heavily linked to the Leicester job. Lazio are among the clubs interested in Mason Greenwood and have open talks at Manchester United over a £30 million move. Juventus and Napoli also credited with interest. Arsenal could look to make a player plus cash offer for Bruno Guimaraes. That is an exclusive from Steve Kay, the enormous spoofer. Liverpool aim to beat Chelsea and Manchester United to the signing of Michael Olise. Unfortunately, this news comes from the spoofer that is Jack Talbot, so it won't be true. Tottenham have moved ahead of Aston Villa in the race for Weston McKennie. Juve are closing in on a move for Douglas Luiz. Nico Williams continues to hold out for a move to Barcelona despite having talks with Aston Villa, Arsenal, Liverpool and Newcastle. Matty Cash is being monitored by AC Milan and Inter Milan. Okay. Keir Walsh is edging towards a move from Barcelona to Arsenal. Chelsea are interested in signing Samu Omorodian and Hanyon Duran, but will only sign one. My assumption is they'll sign Duran. Manchester United are stepping up their search for squad replacements with Jonathan David high on their shortlist. United were in talks for Tadibo, but that's now fallen apart. Manchester United do not see agreeing a contract extension with Bruno Fernandes as a priority this summer, despite him being linked with Bayern Munich and Inter Milan. I think that makes sense. He is 29. Moroccan midfielder Sofiane Amrabat has told Fiorentina he does not want to return to the club after spending last season on loan at Manchester United. Bayern Munich have made Xavi Simons their top transfer priority this summer, but they would have to pay 85 million for him, which he just isn't worth at this point. They'd just be better off holding out a year and getting Florian Wirtz. If you want to go and buy an attacker this summer, you've been linked with Elise, he'd be the one. West Ham face a battle to keep Mohamed Kudus, with Al Ittihad interested in the Ghanaian winger. Leicester and Fulham are keen on Roma's Eduardo Bove, but Premier League rivals Everton and Bournemouth are at a more advanced stage in their own pursuits of the Italian midfielder. I'd really like to see him at Bournemouth. I think he could fit in very, very well into that Bournemouth team. Him and Tyler Adams as the midfield pairing with Alex Scott as the 10. I quite like that. Brighton could block Stuttgart's attempts to sign Dennis Undav permanently because of a buyback clause in his contract. There's also some suggestion that the new manager would like to keep him. Southampton are the front runners to sign Flynn Downs after his successful loan spell there last season. And Fulham are set to offer Willian a new one-year deal. So there we go, folks. That's all the news, all the gossip. And I will see you tomorrow. Take care. Bye-bye.
Sports Social Podcast Network.